Do you love Stranger Things and you're interested in D&D but haven't made the leap yet? Or maybe you play D&D and you also love Stranger Things. Well, either way, D&D has you covered with the brand new Welcome to the Hellfire Club Stranger Things D&D Starter Box Set. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced player, it's got a ton of Stranger Things related D&D content for you. Now, in this next episode of The Art of Character, I'm going to show you how to run one of the pre-generated character sheets that are included in this set to run your game. Welcome, Stranger Things fans. We're glad you're here. I'm a huge fan of Stranger Things myself, and Stranger Things really has grown the game of D&D, or grown the audience in the last few years. And this brand new Welcome to the Hellfire Club has a ton of good content. And we're going to get into it and show you how you can run one of the pre-generated characters to play the game. And if you haven't done so already, click down in the description and check out our other video content related to Stranger Things, this D&D box set. This is number 3 in the series, Stranger Things D&D. Also, click down below. I've got a lot of other content on learning to play D&D, so if you want to learn how to play the game, check it out. So this new Welcome to the Hellfire Club starter set is awesome. It has a bunch of Stranger Things related content. It loosely follows the story from each of the 4 seasons, and it's got these pre-generated characters that represent the D&D characters that the cast plays when they're playing D&D in Stranger Things. And if you're new to D&D, looking at a character sheet for the first time can be a bit daunting. There's all these stats and numbers and what do they all mean, and if you don't know the rules, it can be a bit confusing. So we're going to get into each of the 5 pre-rolled or pre-generated character sheets they have in this set, and I'll show you how you would work or use or run each of them to play a character. I'm going to show you how to run these with a screen share of the PDFs of each of these 5 pre-generated character sheets. We'll start with Lewis and Claire. Take a look at this top box up here. We've got the player's name, their alignment. You can either be lawful, chaotic, or neutral, and then you can also be evil or good with neutral in the middle, and there's all the permutations of those. So his character is neither lawful nor chaotic, but is generally good aligned. His background is a soldier. Each character in D&D has a background. Class is fighter. It's one of the most basic classes that goes back to the beginning days. First level, we're going to do all these at first level. He is a human, that is his species. And if you look up here, most of the humanoids that you play characters with in D&D are medium, so the size is medium. Initiative of +1. If your DM asks for an initiative roll, you roll a d20 and add a 1 to that. That's what that means. Your speed is 30 feet, and generally when you're on a map, the grids that we use are 5 feet, so you can move 6 spaces or 6 grids. Your proficiency bonus is a +2, and that applies to a bunch of the things already on the sheet. But if you ever need it, there it is. Then we've got armor class. The higher the armor class, the better. The harder it is to hit you, the better your armor or your protection. His is a 17. That's pretty good. Your hit points. This is essentially the amount of damage you can take, and at first level, you can't take very much. His hit points are 15. He's also got these things called hit dice and 1d10. That basically means he can roll a 10-sided dice to restore hit points. Usually when you're taking a short rest is how you do that anyway. So he has 1, and this indicates whether you've spent them or not. And when you're down to 0 hit points, you have death savings throws. So you have either 3 successes or 3 failures. 3 failures, you die. 3 successes, you're stabilized and no longer dying. And there's a portrait of his character that's, I guess, Lewis playing Sundar the Bold, this fighter. Look down here on the right, you can see the name, Sundar the Bold. But we'll come down here. We're going to go on the left first. These are called ability scores. They are strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And here's how they work. Each of them has a base score, with 10 being the human average for each of these. So 16 strength, 10 intelligence, 15 dexterity, 8 wisdom, 16 constitution, and 12 for charisma. So based upon your score, you have a modifier, +3 for strength, +0 intelligence, +1 for dexterity, -1 for wisdom, +3 for constitution, and then we have +1 for charisma. Every now and then, the DM will ask for a savings throw. If so, you add this modifier for the savings throw, strength savings throw. You roll a d20 and add a 5 to that. Down here for wisdom, you roll a d20 and take a 1 away from that. Then for each of these ability scores, you have skills. And again, the DM may ask you to roll for athletics, let's say. You would add +5 to that. And that's generally athletically related, strength-based things. Or dexterity-related skills, we've got acrobatics, sleight of hand, stealth. You add a +1 to either of those rolls when the DM asks for those. Then right here we've got skills, arcana, history, investigation, nature, and religion. Those are related to intelligence, and you don't add anything in this case when you roll for that. It changes for each of the characters, you'll see. So we've also got animal handling, insight, medicine, perception, and survival. And these are mixed. It looks like some of these he has proficiency in, which you get to choose skills you have proficiency in when you create the characters. And he's got a +1 for insight, +1 for perception. But these others are -1, as you see. Constitution doesn't have any skills, but it does relate to the hit points anyway. If you need to make a Constitution savings throw, which certainly happens, it's a +5. And then Charisma, we've got Deception, Intimidation, Performance, and Persuasion. And there are the various skill checks related to those if the DM asks for those. I'm not going to explain what all the skills are right now. I've got another episode which you can click in the description and learn all about the skills. But the basics on these abilities: strength, this is your physical might. Dexterity, this is generally your agility. Your constitution is essentially your internal fortitude or your resistance to other things due to the physical composition of your body. Your intelligence, essentially how smart you are. Your wisdom is your ability to perceive others and perceive the world and kind of figure some things out, like how people are acting, for example. Charisma is pretty self-explanatory, but it's essentially how good you are at interacting with other people, sort of how much of a leader you are, how good you are at encouraging them or intimidating them or persuading them to do different things. Okay, we're going to come back over here to the middle of the sheet. These are your weapon attacks, and it gives you everything that you need to know about those. His weapons that he has: a great sword, a flail, javelin, spear, and a light crossbow. When you roll an attack with a weapon, you roll a 20-sided dice, and you add this modifier to it on your attack. And the way that this works is his armor class is 17. So let's say he was attacking someone with an armor class of 17. He would need to roll a 17 or higher on a d20. So the d20 would have to roll, in this case with a greatsword, he would have to roll a 12 plus a 5 at a minimum. That would be 17, and that would hit. Then if you hit on an attack with a weapon, it does a damage, and the damage is listed over here. The way that the dice work, essentially, the D is the number of sides, so 2 is the number of dice that you roll, right here in this example. So you're rolling 2 6-sided dice and then adding 3 to that one time. In this case, you are rolling 1 D8 or 1 8-sided die and adding 3 to that. In this case, you're rolling 1 6-sided dice and adding 3 to that. This is the type of damage that it does, and you only add this modifier to it once. Weapons also have properties and a mastery property. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So then on ranged weapons, you can see a range here and a range there. The range on the left is your normal range. You attack normally. The range on the right is long range. And if you attack at long range, you attack at disadvantage. What it means to attack with disadvantage is you roll 2 20-sided dice and you take the lower of those two. You take the lower result. You cannot attack with a ranged weapon beyond long range. It's out of range. Down here on the front page of these character sheets, you will see a bunch of the things that they can do, stuff you need to know about how to run this character. So he has a defensive fighting style. While you're wearing light, medium, or heavy armor, you gain a +1 bonus to your armor class. Helps your armor class. He's a savage attacker. He's trained to deal particularly damaging strikes. So once per turn, when you hit a target with a weapon, you can roll the weapon's damage dice twice and use the higher of those two rolls. So let's say you roll 1d8 for damage. In one of your attacks on a turn, you can roll the d8 2 times and take the higher of those two rolls and use that for the damage that you do. These are feats, by the way, things you can pick up as you're creating characters. He has the tough feat, so his hit point maximum increases by an amount equal to twice the character level when you gain the feat, and then for every level after that, it goes up +2 hit points. You get more hit points as you go up in levels. Makes you tough. These are your species traits, and as a human, he is resourceful. He gets heroic inspiration when he finishes a long rest. So you can do 1 long rest a day. They also do short rest. You can do as many of those as possible. A long rest is 8 hours. A short rest is 1 hour. When he finishes a long rest, he gets heroic inspiration that he can use one time. What that means is any of the rolls that he makes in the game with a d20, he can roll with advantage. And what that means is he uses the higher of those 2 dice and uses that result. Also, as a human, he is skillful, he gained the perception skill, and he's versatile or tough. He gets the tough feat, and that's listed up here. Some other things about Sundar the fighter. So second wind. You have a limited well of physical and mental stamina that you can draw upon. As a bonus action, you can use it to regain 1d10 plus 1 hit points. You can use this feature twice. You regain 1 expended use when you finish a short rest, and you regain all expended uses when you do a long rest. Then there's some rules down here for weapons mastery, and my suggestion, if it is your very first time playing, is you don't use weapons mastery rules. It just adds a little bit of complexity, but if you're really into combat and really into strategy and tactics and want to get into all this combat stuff, go ahead and use it and check it out. I'll talk about it here just briefly. He has extra training, and it talks about what you can do with changing which weapons you have mastery with between rests. But anyway, he has the graze property with a greatsword. If his attack roll misses, you deal 3 damage anyway to that creature. Then he has the sap feature for the flail and the spear. If he hits a creature with this weapon, that creature has disadvantage on its next attack roll before the start of your next turn. Your next turn would be before the start of Sundar's next turn. Then if he hits you with a javelin or a light crossbow, you hit this creature with this weapon, you deal damage to it, you can reduce the speed by 10 feet until the start of its next turn. Anyway, there's some more rules there. You can check that out. Then here we are on the back of the character sheet. So this talks about the weapons and armor that he is proficient in all symbol and martial weapons. 28 gold starting. And then here for a fighter, it's going to list all his armor and weapons. There you go. He has chainmail. That's his armor. And anyway, while wearing chainmail, he also has disadvantage on dexterity stealth checks. Basically, it jingles and it makes noise and it's heavy when he moves around. Then here's his adventuring gear. It tells you all about it. Backpack, caltrops, you can throw those on the ground and do damage to enemies, crossbow, bolt case, a crowbar, a healer's kit, so anyway, he can help stabilize one of his friends if he needs to do that. He's got 2 flasks of oil. You can basically light these on fire and throw them. They explode and do damage to enemies. You can also burn things with them. Then he's got rations, 10 days worth. He's got some rope, a tinderbox, and torches. And it's pretty cool that it lists all the rules associated with these. It just helps you out. Anyway, if he has magic items, you would list them down here, and these are the attunement slots. You have up to 3 of those. Some magic items require attunement slots, and you can only use 3 of those at a time. Some magic items don't require attunement slots, and you can use any of those. You can add to them. You don't have to have attunement slots anyway. Okay, next we're going to talk about Erica Sinclair's character, Lady Applejack. Anyway, there's the character name over there on the side. So all the same stuff right here. It's got their name, background. She's a criminal. Her species is elf. She is chaotic good, so not generally following the laws, but good, kind of like a Robin Hood. She's a rogue, also sometimes called a thief, level 1, size medium, initiative +5, speed is 35, so she's pretty quick, proficiency bonus +2, only 10 hit points, not as many hit points, and a lower armor class. So anyway, come down here, look at her abilities. So a little bit lower on strength, high intelligence, high dexterity. The dexterity helps her armor class and helps her be pretty nimble. You can also see the skills that she's proficient in. They have higher scores. Looks like acrobatics, sleight of hand, and stealth. Sleight of hand and stealth, she actually has expertise, so she gets extra bonuses to that. Wisdom +1 with a 12 score, and then constitution a 14 score and a +2. Charisma is pretty average right there in the middle. Didn't mention this on Sundar's, but here you would mark if you have heroic inspiration. Also, the languages you know are down here over in the corner if that comes up. Here are the weapon attack stacks, and this works the same as with Sundar's short sword, dagger, short bow. Here's the attack bonus. You roll a d20, add that to that. Here's the damage you would do if you land an attack, and here are the properties or the mastery properties right here. It tells you the names of them and kind of how it works, and these two have a range. You can throw a dagger, you can shoot the short bow. Here are her feats. She has initiative proficiency. When you roll initiative, you can add your proficiency bonus to the roll. Anyway, it's included in initiative already for her. And then she can also do initiative swap. So immediately after you roll initiative, you can swap your initiative roll with initiative of one willing ally in the same combat. So you can basically help somebody out if you have high initiative, swap with them if you want them to go first or something like that. Or if they roll high and you roll low, you could ask them if they want to swap. If they're willing, then basically you get to use their score, which is higher, and you get to go first in the order of combat. Here are the species traits of an elf. So as an elf, she has dark vision. She has dark vision with a range of out to 60 feet. And that doesn't mean you can actually see in complete and total black, complete darkness the same way you would in full daylight. But it does give you advantages in dim light and complete darkness. It just helps you out some. Her elven lineage. She's a wood elf. You are part of a lineage that grants you supernatural abilities. Her speed increases by 35, already included. She also knows the druid craft cantrip at first level, and intelligence is her spellcasting ability for this. Her fey ancestry, also related to elves. You have an advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the charm condition. She also has keen senses or insight, so she has proficiency in the insight skill. She also has a trance state, which means she doesn't really need to sleep. She can sort of meditate and retain her consciousness, and 4 hours get the benefit of a full 8-hour rest. And also magic can't put her to sleep. So as a rogue, she also has expertise, and right here it lists sleight of hand and stealth, which we talked about before. She also has the sneak attack ability. She knows how to strike subtly and exploit a foe's distraction. Once per turn, you can deal an extra 1d6 damage to one creature you hit. With an attack roll, you have advantage on the roll, and the attack uses a finesse or ranged weapon. The extra damage type is the same as the weapons type. You don't need advantage on the attack roll if at least one of your allies is within 5 feet of the target and the ally doesn't have the incapacitated condition, and you don't have disadvantage on the attack roll. Anyway, there's a bunch of rules there. So generally, when you land an attack and you have advantage, or one of your allies is within 5 feet, then you add an extra die to the damage, an extra 1d6 in this case, and do extra damage. You can sneak around and kind of take advantage of them. She's also got weapon mastery, so Nick with the dagger, so she makes an extra attack roll of a light property. She can make it as part of the attack action instead of the bonus action. Anyway, that saves one of your actions a little bit. It's a bit technical, as I was saying, Then also with the short bow and the short sword, you can vex. So if you hit a creature with this weapon and deal damage to the creature, you have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature. That's actually a pretty good one right there. Equipment training and proficiencies, light armor, and then also simple weapons, martial weapons of light or finesse properties, and then thieves' tools. You use thieves' tools to pick locks, open doors, things like that. They help you pick locks, essentially. Armor and weapons, it lists them up here. She's wearing leather armor, so there isn't that stealth disadvantage you saw with Sundar. Then her adventuring gear, backpack, ball bearings. You can throw those on the ground and cause people to fall down. A bell, candles, looks like here a crowbar, hooded lantern, oil, 7 flasks of oil, and do all kinds of stuff with that. Rations, a tinderbox, and some tools, her thieves' tools. Here's Dustin Henderson's character, Nog the Dwarf. Anyway, he's a cleric, technically. Here's his class right there, cleric. He's a dwarf, armor class 16. He has a shield, which helps out with his armor class, hit points of 12, speed, medium size, initiative, proficiency bonus, all the same that you've seen before. Weapons attacks right there. Not going to get into all that because that's where it is. And here are the feats. He's got the tough feat. We've talked about that before. Here are all of his ability scores and his skill modifiers and savings throw modifiers. You can see all those. His languages down here. His species traits. He also has dark vision. He has dwarven resilience. He has resistance to poison damage. You also have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the poison condition. He has dwarven toughness. His hit point maximum increases by 1, and it increases by 1 whenever he gains a level. He also has stone cunning, so as a bonus action, he can gain tremor sense. Basically, he can feel vibrations through the ground within a range of 60 feet for 10 minutes. He must be on a stone surface or touching a stone surface to use tremor sense. The stone can be natural or work stone. Anyway, he can use this as a bonus action twice, and he regains all uses when he finishes a long rest. Spellcasting for a dwarf, this is where it starts to get a little bit more complicated for the spellcasters. He knows 3 cantrips, and what you do is you take the spell cards out of the box related to the cantrips that he knows. And cantrips are level 0. You don't need a spell slot to cast them. You can especially cast them out of combat or during combat on your action. You can cast them as many times as you'd like. Then for spell slots, he has 2 level 1 spell slots for casting his level 1 spells. He regains all expended spell slots when he finishes a long rest. Preparing his spells as a cleric. So to prepare the spells that are available for him to cast with this feature, he takes the spell cards that match those spells, and then he can pick from those and cast those. I'll show you how that works on the backside. Spellcasting focus, he has a holy symbol. You have dedicated yourself to the sacred role of protector. Trained for battle, you gain proficiency with martial weapons and training in heavy armor, and it's already included. So as spellcasters, they have this up here in the corner. So the spellcasting ability modifier is +3. The spell save DC is 13. So if this character is casting a spell and it says in the spell that the enemy has to roll a spell savings throw, what this means is they have to roll a 13, meet or beat a 13 to succeed. If they succeed, then your spell doesn't have an effect, or it does less effect or less damage. For some spells you attack, you would roll a d20 and add a 5 to that. Here are the spell slots. There are a total of 2 of them. So here's how this works. You go ahead and get the spell cards from the box for Guidance, Sacred Flame, Spare the Dying, Bless, Cure Wounds, Guiding Bolt, and Shield of Faith. It tells you all about those spells on those cards. You can also read about them in the play guide or in my free guide to playing D&D, also linked below in the description. So with cantrips, you can cast these as many times as you want. With these level 1 spells, you can cast 2 of them, so you could cast 1 Bless or 1 Cure Light Wounds or cast Bless twice, whatever you want to do, but you can cast up to 2 of these level 1 spells or 2 of the same spell in a day, in an 8-hour day. And then you get these spell slots recharged essentially when you take a long rest. Chainmail armor, so it's heavy, he has disadvantage on stealth rolls. He also has a battle axe, a mace, and a shield. Then here's his gear, a backpack, a healer's kit. Again, he can stabilize a wounded comrade that's at 0 hit points. His holy symbol helps him cast spells. He has holy water. He can throw this essentially or splash it on bad guys who are fiends or undead and do damage. He has a lamp. He has rations. Looks like he also has a robe and a tinderbox to help start fires. One more thing about clerics in D&D, they are the healers usually, but they are holy warriors or priests. That's essentially what they are. Let's do Will Byers' character next. This is Will the Wise. Anyway, there's a portrait of him. You can see that. His background is a scribe. He's a human also. Here's all the same stats. We don't need to go over all of those. Here are the weapons. He has a quarterstaff and a dagger. Take a look at his skills. His intelligence is high. That's the main thing you use as a wizard. He also has a high wisdom, so those skills are also high related to that. Looks like he has a lot of skills. So his feats, he is skilled, he gains some extra skills, that's why he has more of those over here. He's also tough, it helps increase his hit points. Species traits, as a human, he's resourceful, he gets heroic inspiration. We talked about these are the same as for all humans, so anyway, the same traits for humans. So spellcasting for a wizard, as a student of arcane magic, he has learned to cast spells. See the play guide, it gives you the rules for spellcasting. He knows 3 wizard cantrips. They are level 0, so those work the same as with the cleric, where he can cast those as many times as he wants, as long as it's within the rules. Spell slots, he has 2 level 1 spell slots. We talked about spell slots with the cleric. Preparing spells, he prepares the spells that are available to cast with this feature. He chooses 4 of his first level spell cards from the spell cards in the set, and these are spells from his spell books. Anyway, those are then prepared, and he can cast them during the day. He can change his prepared spells when he does a long rest. He can change the cards if he wants to. Spellcasting focus, he has an arcane focus, usually a symbol of some sort, or it can be his spell book. He also has arcane recovery, so in between long rests, he can regain 1 spell slot. Anyway, it's just something he can do on a short rest to get a little bit of spellcasting ability back. So here's his spellcasting ability. His modifier is +3. It's intelligence. His spell save DC is 13. Spell attack bonus is +5. So those work the same as with the cleric. When he attacks, he adds a 5 to that when he rolls a d20, and the enemy has to roll a 13 or higher when they're trying to make a savings throw against his spells. 2 spell slots. And when you're picking the spells for him, you would take the spell cards for all of these level 0 spells, and then it says you can pick 1, 2, 3, 4 of these. Pick any of the 4 that you like, and you can change them out again on a long rest. These work the same as the cleric, so he can cast up to 2 of these 4 that he has selected. So 2 of the same or 2 different ones. That's it between each long rest. Here's equipment training right there, only simple weapons. There's his weapons and adventuring gear. You see arcane focus, backpack, book, ink, inkwell, lamp. He's got flasks of oil, parchment, a robe, and a tinderbox. All right, here's Mike Wheeler's character, Tear the Paladin. His background is a noble. He is lawful good, so he's like a goody two-shoes. He's a halfling. It's a real small, they're kind of like hobbits in Lord of the Rings, really small. As you see, the size is small, initiative +0. His speed is 30 feet, proficiency. Here's his hit points and his armor class. He also has a shield. So a paladin is essentially a holy warrior. There's his portrait, and if you remember when Will made a picture of him when they were going out to California, he said he was the heart of the party. Anyway, there's the heart on his shield. Here's his skills. He has a pretty high strength. Intelligence is below average. Dexterity is average. Wisdom is also high. Constitution is pretty good. And charisma is reasonably high. Here's his modifiers for all the different skills related to that. Same as we've pointed out before. He's skilled. That's his feat. So he has some extra skills. And then as a halfling, he is brave. So he has advantage on saving throws he makes to avoid or end the frightened condition. Halfling nimbleness. He can move through the space of another creature that is a size larger, but you can't stop in the same space. So luck, when he rolls a 1 on a d20 for a d20 test, he can re-roll that dice, and he must use the new roll. He's also naturally stealthy. Just because they're so small, kind of in combat, they can hide behind other creatures if there's at least one size different. If they're one size larger than you, at least that much, you can kind of hide behind them. Some class features here, laying on hands. So anyway, his blessed touch can heal wounds. He has a pool of healing that he can use. It replenishes after a long rest. It's 5 hit points. So as a bonus action, he can touch a creature or himself and do 5 healing. He can also use 5 hit points to remove the poison condition. So paladins also have a little bit of spell casting. They use prayer and meditation to get their spell power. So they have 2 first-level spell slots, and anyway, what they do to prepare the spells that are available, you want to take the cards that are associated with those spells. Spellcasting focus, he uses a holy symbol. Spellcasting ability is charisma. He does have weapon mastery also, and some of that should be on the next sheet. This on the back page, here's his weapon mastery right here. He's got sapping with the longsword or slowing with the javelin. We talked about some of that before. Then here's his spellcasting, since he has that also. Spellcasting ability modifier is +2, spell save DC is 12, and his spell attack bonus is 4. He has 2 first level spell slots, and his spells are Command and Searing Smite. Go ahead and get those cards from the box and tells you all about the spells, and then when you want to cast a spell, there it is. It tells you what to do. Proficiency is over here. And then adventuring gear, he's got chainmail, a great sword, a flail, 8 javelins, a light crossbow, and a spear. Anyway, he can only wear 1 suit of armor at a time, etc. It gives you those rules. And then adventuring gear, we've got a backpack, fine clothes, healer's kit, holy symbol, holy water. We've talked about a lot of these before. A lamp, perfume. I guess he wants to smell nice. He's got rations and a robe and a tinderbox. There you go. There's the overview of the pre-generated character sheets for Welcome to the Hellfire Club. Again, these are the D&D characters that the kids play in Stranger Things. Pretty cool, right? And there's a reference guide that comes in the play box in the set. If you open right here, you can see this shows you all about the character sheets if you ever need to reference some of the parts of the sheets. So pick the character that speaks to you. And another way that you can use this, since these are pre-generated, they're not really yours, is there's 4 adventures in the box. You can go ahead and play one for one adventure, and then maybe play another for another adventure if you want to try something out. But once you know the basics, they're pretty easy to use. All the references are right there on the sheets. These are great character sheets, and the design is a throwback to some of the sheets we used back in the 80s, especially with the color. So anyway, get out there, have fun, use one of these character sheets, and play D&D. I hope all your adventures are amazing. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Art of Character. If you've made it this far, consider liking, commenting, or subscribing, or click below and join our Patreon or our Discord. You can also click below and get something from our merch store. Until next time.